everybody, this is Dr. Elsa. Welcome back to my channel. This channel is about self-empowerment to community empowerment to changing your start. You know, I'm not feeling very well today, but I figured it's a perfect day to talk about mental health awareness. We're actually coming to a close with Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to be sure to sort of share a few of my thoughts and reflections about this month. There's so much that I wanted to share, about this month. Unfortunately, you know, there are multiple competing priorities that I have to focus on. Pardon me because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but I definitely wanted to share some thoughts with you. I've also included, you know, 2 articles, one on Medium and one from my Warrior Queen blog, which is a blog that I started, you know, to help with coping with my mental health while I was pursuing my PhD. I just want to say, like, I hope that you're okay and you're doing well, and there's always trying times. There's always, everybody's sort of facing challenges in different ways at a personal level and at a collective level, and I hope that you're okay. The second thing I want to say is that I hope that we continue these conversations. In my last video, I talked about having these honest conversations. My interest is looking at the intersectionality, which is actually one of the themes of my blog as well. The intersectionality of those cross-cutting, you know, themes like race and mental health and gender and intersectional feminism as well. So one of the things referenced is that intersection with race and mental health. We're coming across a lot of different sort of issues connected with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And personally, I feel like mental health, while it does not define you, it is an identity factor. It is, you know, there are personality disorders, there are mental health conditions that are, you know, incurable. I actually thought that the COVID pandemic, you know, was an opportunity to sort of put a dent on the stigma, to bring forward these conversations in a very honest and bold way. And I feel like we've missed that opportunity. I really do, as a national, international level, as well as, you know, it's ironic because everybody's facing these problems. But the thing is, if everybody's facing these problems and we're not thinking about the people who had existing conditions prior to the pandemic, I just think it's so important to sort of keep an ongoing conversation about this, and to talk about things in a direct and honest and bold way. And, you know, I sense the stigma deeply within my own networks, and I've sensed it over many years, enlightening over the past several years, on how much that stigma of me talking openly about mental health has really impacted, you know, me at a personal level. And I think that's unfortunate for me to share, because it makes people feel like they can't share their stories because, oh, look at Elsa and look at her experience, you know, she feels like she's, you know, it's affected her, so, you know, we can't share our story now. That's sort of making me think about the way that I'm messaging things now. You know, yes, there's an effect there, but at the same time, there's something freeing about living your authentic self. You know, I choose to live in full authenticity with every single element of who I am. And it's gonna come. There's gonna be moments where people are just not gonna think of you as their cup of chai. They're not gonna enjoy, you know, being around you. They're gonna fear you because people are afraid of what they're unfamiliar with, and that's why we have to encourage these conversations, right? The stigma is so real. It's so real, and I think it's a beautiful thing to experience this kind of pain. And I'm going to continue to encourage people to continue to share their stories, and to engage other people who are sharing their stories, not be resentful. One of the things that I mentioned in my article of the Warrior Queen blog, people may resonate with your message, but they refuse to engage you with it out of fear as well. I feel there are people out there who resent you just because you have the courage to live your authentic life. This prevents people from, you know, wanting to continue to be authentic because you're not getting the support and the positive reinforcement from your networks. I know for me, I have expressed this, you know, in writing. Maybe people don't read me, or like implied it, you know, in some of my previous videos, that it feels so unfortunate that you're losing a sense of community in your life. And I noticed a depreciation of social capital, and it's losing it online and losing it on offline. Is like, okay, you know, if people don't want to be in my life, people don't want to connect with me, people don't want to be there for me and support me while I'm struggling, or while I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my life, then that's fine. You feel a sense of abandonment, but the fact that you're resilient regardless of losing that sense of community, that support network that everybody needs that, even if they don't have mental health concerns. But if you have had and you've shared it with people and they choose not to be in your life regardless of it, whether it's family or friends or whatever, because of all the different factors that you're choosing to be, you're choosing your authentic self. You're choosing to share that as your authentic self. I have a very sharing nature. I share my life. I'm an open book with the world, whether it be blogging or blogging in my social media forums or on my personal blogging platforms. It's always going to be a part of me. And I think it's really courageous to do so. It's courageous to live your authentic self. And I will always, want to serve as a sort of inspiration, something for that people who want to live their authentic selves can see that there's space for them. There's space for us outcasts. There's space for us weirdos, us, creatives, crazies out there. There's space for us. I hate the word crazy. But I just say it I just say it as a joke. But I really hate that word, crazy, because I think being crazy is actually pretty cool. I think the most socially awkward people are the coolest people out there. Perhaps the most fascinating. In any case, you do lose friends. You do lose friends when you choose authenticity. But I will always encourage that you remain steadfast and true to yourself. People will come in and out of your life. And the people who stay, the people who believe in you, are the people who are going to look at you and admire you for having the courage to live up to your truth. I've really been reflecting on this a lot, about how all my life I've just been, allowing the hate that I get for being myself. Whether it be someone who stutters when she speaks, or, but she speaks anyway, or, someone who has, shares that she has ambitions, she wants to explore the world, she travels the world, she shares her life story, whatever. All my life I've let that hate impact me. I've let people who are just hate the fact that I think high, affect me and bring me down. When I'm up here, they want me down here, and I talked about that in a previous video as well. But I have to say also that it's really the silence that's really painful. The silence from the people who you've loved, admired, and appreciated so much, how much you respected so much, the people who are silent about you sharing your story, your mental health journey, the people who refuse to lend a helping hand to lift you up. That's really, really painful. I just remember that quote that has just struck a chord for me, when I was in my younger years, and has stayed with me forever, really, from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it applies across social justice issues, and it applies in issues like mental health and suicide. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And that, it speaks volumes for these kinds of social taboo issues like mental health, addressing mental health stigma in our communities, in the South Asian community, in the Muslim community for which I belong, our families, in our workplaces, in our schools, whatever. It's just so embedded there. It's present, and we have to acknowledge that it exists. There are just people who will dislike you, for choosing to be your authentic self, for having the courage to be your authentic self, to stand in your story, in your true story, no matter what, instead of taking inspiration from it and seeing it as another person giving space to those others who resonate with you and who connect with you and who have a similar story and a similar path. But I choose to do my best to push past the hurt, to overcome that pain of invisibility from people in my life over being my authentic self. And I talk about authenticity because talking about mental health requires authenticity. It requires really open mind about our differences. So I think we're so far from it. I talked about the pandemic. I talked about, curing that stigma during the pandemic, and I think we've gone backwards with that. Unfortunately, we've gone backwards in a lot of ways, and there are a lot more resources out there now, but the stigma remains, and the only way that we can defeat this stigma is by having an ongoing, a constant conversation about mental health awareness, about suicidality, about personality disorders, about the stigma that's embedded within our community. What that stigma exactly is. Take the pledge. Take the pledge to cure stigma. Take the pledge to be a part of the mental health awareness conversation. Mental health cuts across all boundaries. It does not discriminate. It does not discriminate across geographies. It is present. It is everywhere. Just like all these other identity factors, it's a cross-cutting element that needs to be discussed, and that's why I brought it up when I was talking about race yesterday. Authenticity is something that I love about myself, and I don't love too many things about myself, but authenticity and pushing through those feelings that tell us of self-doubt, or the feelings of self-consciousness or embarrassment or whatever on these social taboo topics, like pushing through that, being able to do that, being able to have the courage to do it, is something that I love about myself, and something that I'm going to continue to nurture, and I continue to encourage others to as well nurture this, especially when it comes to mental health. I want to encourage people to realize that there is hope for change when it comes to this, but change comes through an active engagement, an active sort of self-awareness within you and your surroundings. And mental health genre, it will allow us to have changes, across so many dimensions of social injustices. And I also believe that you don't have to be a healthcare professional to talk about mental health. So people will tell you to, go seek support, go get help, or whatever. They're copping out of a conversation that you should be having if your race matters with them. And I think that's a really unfortunate reality. So I've been speaking extemporaneously, but I wanted to just express my thoughts just like this, even though it's probably all over the place and there's so much more to say. It's definitely incomplete, but I'm going to continue talking about this. I'm not going to stop, just like I'm not going to stop talking about a free Palestine. And that's one thing that I forgot to mention in this conversation, that the intersecting elements of it. When you're someone who has studied mental health for a long time, and when you're someone who's been immersed in the sort of advocacy and awareness and understanding of mental health stigma, as well as at the same time the understanding of and immersed in the sort of conversations around the question of Palestine, you see the intersections, and that's what I was talking about earlier, about the cross-cutting elements, a variety of social justice issues, especially with mental health. The one thing that I want to say, and I want to go in depth more about that, about the conversation when it comes to stigma and talking about mental health, and stigma and talking about the social taboo of talking about a free Palestine. You start to connect the dots, you start to see the connections of these two big issues. But I do want to just say that we have to think about the future generations when it comes to mental health. My gosh, the suffering that the Palestinians are going to be facing, the aftermath, in addition to what they're already facing now, the aftermath of recovery, post-conflict reconstruction. That will include, thinking about how to address this mega mental health crisis that has emerged for future generations, for the children of Palestine. UNRWA is a great organization that does work for supporting mental health counseling and providing the support services that I've talked about in previous videos as well, for Palestinian refugee children. Their work on the mental health is going to be crucial, and other organizations that are involved with that. And I included some links in the video as well for those who want to donate or look into the kind of efforts that they're putting in for the children. I will talk more about the connection between mental health and Palestine. There's going to be a lot of time to talk about that in the future. I'm sorry this wasn't very organized. I hope that I was able to express some things that were enlightening for you. I hope to continue to write and vlog about mental health going forward, and I hope that we continue these difficult conversations. I hope that we embrace them, and I hope that we do it openly, honestly, and bravely, like we should with the conversation on race and racism in America as well. Was there anything that you wanted to add, Elsa? No? Yeah, she's a little shy sometimes. Yeah, I think that's good for now. We'll continue this conversation, and please let me know what you think. Please do, share your thoughts and feedback. Again, this is very extemporaneous talk right now. As I said, I hope that we continue these conversations. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being with me today. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. Most importantly, as I say often, we have to learn to be better at being there for each other, and I hope that we continue to have these conversations in order to learn how to be better for each other and to support one another, to save one another from trying circumstances. Lastly, as I say always, stay resilient, stay empowered, and stay connected. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Elsa. Thank you so much for listening. Peace and solidarity. Let's continue to embrace the transformative power of difficult conversations, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.